Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. Tonight we're going to start out with our feature. It's not a person, but it's a thing. It's the Village Voice, the alternative newspaper in New York City that died recently at the age of 62. Can't say that it died exactly. It's the print version that died. It will still be available in an electronic version on the web. It was founded in 1955 in Greenwich Village by Dan Wolfe, Ed Fancher, and, of all people, Norman Mailer. Since that time, it's been where New Yorkers go to find restaurants, to find apartments, to find sex, to find out about music. It's always a good place to find out about local political scandals. It's had some great writing in its day. The best was Nat Hentoff, whose podcast we've done, who wrote superb articles about jazz and free speech. It also featured Jules Feiffer's great cartoons. But although it was very popular, it faced the same problems that all the other print media did. In 1996, it went to a free version. You could just pick it up in boxes all over Manhattan. And even when it was free, it eventually fell victim to the internet. By the late 1990s, it began to lose its lucrative ad base to Craigslist and other free sites. Chain stores invaded Manhattan. And thanks to the social media, the remaining small shops in Manhattan could soon self-advertise and they could bypass the Village Voice. Here's Michael Scotto from New York One on the Village Voice.
For 62 years, the Village Voice has been a staple in the city, covering politics, government, and culture, and for decades personifying the downtown neighborhood where it was founded. But soon the Village Voice will end its weekly print edition and publish only online. Tom Robbins wrote for the paper until 2011.
It hurt to hear it because the Voice physical paper was such a presence in the city.
A presence because the paper was once known for groundbreaking reporting. Founded in 1955 by a group that included Norman Mailer, the Voice established itself as a political and cultural force. Muckrakers like Robbins, Wayne Barrett, and Jack Newfield uncovered misdeeds that, for example, helped to topple Ed Koch's mayoralty. But it wasn't just the reporting that grabbed attention. The Voice was once thick with classified and personal ads. That is, until the internet took them all away.
That's how half of New York found jobs, apartments, dates. And literally you would see people waiting online for the first edition of the paper to appear.
In that paper were columnists who gave context to the times, like Nat Hentoff, who wrote about jazz and civil liberties, and Michael Musto, whose columns threw a spotlight on the downtown nightlife scene. But the Voice could not avoid the problems sweeping print journalism. In 1996, the Voice switched to free distribution, but the continued erosion of ads forced a never-ending cycle of layoffs and ownership changes. Musto was laid off in 2013, but is now back as a freelance writer. He is hopeful.
I think it is still a vital force. There are plenty of publications that are web-only or that focus mainly on their web, and that's the way the Voice will go. It's not over.
The paper's current owner, a Pennsylvania millionaire, says he will invest in the website and new reporters. The hope is this new focus will revitalize the name. But to many New Yorkers, it is the end of an era. There's no word on when the last print edition will be distributed, and boxes like this one will no longer be part of the cityscape. Gone like the Village Voice newspaper.
We'll probably get some good writers to write for the Village Voice, but it's hard to make it go just electronically unless you get that advertising. And I don't think a lot of those people are going to want to write for a long time without getting paid much money. We're going to move on now to Jay Thomas, who died recently at the age of 69. He was an all-around guy. He was a comedian, actor, disc jockey, and raconteur. Nice Catholic boy who was born in Kermit, Texas, and he went to school all throughout the South. He went to Tennessee and Vanderbilt for a while, played some football. Actually played a little bit in the World Football League, but he got his big break as a disc jockey, first in New York and then in Los Angeles. Let's listen to him as a boss jock at Power 106.
And the doctor said there's going to be a lot of jokes made about this. I heard this guy talking the other day on one of those consumer networks and stuff. So I just wanted to bring it to you. I mean, it's just another wonderful use. That and, of course, putting toy poodles in there, which was another fun thing we did for quite a while.
I have one of those.
I know you do. It's 26 minutes after 7 o'clock, so there you go. By the way, this is Trash Day, not just because we're talking it, but we're going through one of the, this morning, the assistant general manager, Debbie Burley's trash can. We're going to go through later on. At Power 106.
Well, he did sort of the same thing that Bob Crane, Dick Van Dyke did, went from a boss jock to being a comedian, and his career took off. Here's the Hollywood Reporter on Jay Thomas.
Jay Thomas, the comic actor who starred on the sitcoms Murphy Brown and Cheers, has died. He was 69. Thomas played the obnoxious TV talk show host Jerry Gold on Murphy Brown from 1989 to 98, after a stint as Rhea Perlman's husband, Eddie LeBeck, a player with the Boston Bruins, on Cheers from 1987 to 89. He also starred on his own sitcom, starring as an egotistical sports writer opposite Susan Day, and then Annie Potts on Love and War, a 1992 to 95 series created by Murphy Brown's Diane English. The good-natured Thomas often played loud, sleazy types. He recently appeared on Showtime's Ray Donovan as Marty Grossman, the operator of the salacious Stalker.com website. On the big screen, Thomas played the Easter Bunny in the Santa Claus movies released in 2002 and 2006, and also appeared in such films as A Smile Like Yours in 1997, Mr. Holland's Opus in 1995, Dragonfly in 2002, and Labor Pains in 2009. A native of Kermit, Texas, Thomas first gained fame as a DJ on radio stations in New York and Los Angeles. He got his start on television in 1979 playing Remo Da Vinci, the co-owner of a New York deli on Mork and Mindy.
Well, if you ask me, his best role was as the gym teacher in Mr. Holland's Opus, opposite Richard Dreyfuss. He's the second main actor for Mr. Holland's Opus to die recently. We just did Glenn Headley's podcast a couple of weeks back. Here's the scene where Richard Dreyfuss finds out that he's being fired, and Jay Thomas, as the football coach, tries to console him. He's actually an excellent dramatic actor.
Hey, what are you doing here? You know, I had some jock straps and a red cycle down the lot. See if you need any help.
Nope. No.
So you decided what you're going to do yet?
Too old to start a rock band. Probably hang out a shingle, teach a few piano lessons.
I'd love to retire.
I'm not retiring, Bill. I'm getting dumped. And I don't think you have anything to worry about. If they cut the football budget in this state, well, now, that will be the end of Western civilization as we know it. I'll tell you the truth. I'm scared to death.
They have no idea how much they're going to miss you around here.
You really think so? What, do you doubt it? Well, as a matter of fact, yeah. It's almost funny. I got dragged into this gig kicking and screaming, and now it's the only thing I want to do. And you work your whole life. You work for 30 years because you think that what you do makes a difference. You think it matters to people. Then you wake up one morning and you find out, well, no, you've made a little error there. You are expendable. Oh, God. I should be laughing.
You sure you don't need any help?
Like I said, he was a pretty good actor. Well, we're going to move on now to Felo Ramirez, who died recently at the age of 94, and he was, without a doubt, the greatest baseball announcer in Spanish history. He was born in Cuba, and he started broadcasting from Cuba when he was 22. He started broadcasting Major League Baseball in 1945. He did it for 72 years. Let's put that in perspective. Vin Scully, the legend, only broadcast baseball for 67 years. He did his broadcasting in Spanish, which is why we're not going to play any clips of him. Starting in 1951, he called dozens of World Series and All-Star games, as well as historic events like Roberto Clemente's 3,000th hit, Hank Aaron's 715th home run, and Don Larson's perfect game in the 1956 World Series. He called baseball in Cuba until 1961. Then he and his wife Louise moved to Venezuela and then later to Puerto Rico to get away from Castro. In 1993, the Miami Marlins made a smart move by making him the voice of the team trying to reach the Hispanic market in South Florida. In 2001, he won the Ford C. Frick Award for Broadcasting Excellence and was admitted to the Hall of Fame. All told, for the Marlins, he called 2 of their World Championships, 1997 and 2003, and 5 no-hitters by Marlin pitchers. Most importantly, his career traced the evolution of Hispanic players in the major leagues. He was broadcasting almost every Marlin game, home and road, up until the time he died. There's a street named for him outside Marlins Park in South Florida, and a baseball field named for him at Tropical Park, and a life-size statue of him at the National Sports Museum in Puerto Rico. We're going to move on now to Tobe Hooper, who died recently at the age of 74. Tobe Hooper was, along with George Romero and Wes Craven, 2 guys whose podcasts we've done, one of the movie directors who reinvented the genre of the horror film. In the late 1960s, he was scuffling around doing commercials and industrial films when he hit upon the idea of a horror film based on the story of Ed Gein, who was that Wisconsin serial killer, who was also the basis for Anthony Perkins' character in Psycho. Some of Tobe Hooper's relatives told him the details of the Ed Gein story, and he decided to combine that with a dystopic version of the 1970s, and he made the following film, which is generally considered to be a horror classic.
The events of that day were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's John Larroquette hamming it up there. You can never tell if he's completely serious or he's playing it straight, which is sort of like the movie. Like Night of the Living Dead, Texas Chainsaw Massacre was made on a limited budget in only a couple of days. It was filmed in the searing Texas heat. Here's Tobe Hooper talking about how he got the idea for the movie. And again, he refers to the gas shortages of the early 1970s. It has a sort of a dystopic element to it.
I was in a shopping, and I was in a Ward's, Montgomery Ward's, or Sears, I think it was Ward's, hardware department. And the crowd was crushing. I wanted out of there. And I found myself standing right in front of a rack of chainsaws. And just the idea happened. I know how I could get out of here quickly. And something happened within about 30 seconds. It truly seems like 10 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever. The skeletal structure for the film. And a lot of the texture, too, just fell in place. About kids, isolation, no gas, straight out of the no gas time. I think we were really, really afraid, things may really change if we're really out of fuel. I think it was integral to its times, I think, in a way that you don't think of now when you see the movie. I mean, you see it, I think it washes over you, and it's scary and frightening, and a lot of stuff is working subliminally.
The movie's sort of misnamed. Only one person dies from a chainsaw in it. And it's one of those movies you either love or hate. I guess I'm one of the few people who's sort of in the middle on it. It is sort of gross, but there's something oddly compelling about it. Anyway, Tobe Hooper got a bunch of gigs after that, but he must have been a little difficult to work with because none of them really worked out until the early 1980s when Spielberg asked him to direct E.T. He turned that one down. I think that was a bad career move. But Spielberg came back to him for his next movie and asked him to direct Poltergeist. Anyway, he did, although there's some controversy about how much Spielberg had to step in at the end to redirect the movie. But Tobe Hooper has Poltergeist on his resume, and as listeners of this show know, any movie that has a classic movie line in it, we have to play it. So here's one of the classic lines in movies issued by little 6-year-old Heather O'Rourke as she's watching television and informs her parents, "They're here." Tobe Hooper directed a lot of movies after that, but nothing of any consequence. The highlights of his resume are definitely Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Poltergeist, but he retains a place in movie history because his slasher style and the suggestion of really gross movie violence and subjects like cannibalism has influenced all these movies since then, and I'm not exactly sure for the better. So let's just say Tobe Hooper has a mixed legacy. Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps, and we're going to close with Bea Wain, who died recently at the age of 100. She's one of the last of the great female big band singers. I think we still have just Doris Day left. Bea Wain was a nice Jewish girl from the Bronx, Theodore Roosevelt High School, and she went on to sing with Larry Clinton's big band, not as big as some of the others. But in 1939, she was actually voted the top female band singer in the country, and number 2 was Ella Fitzgerald, so you know that she must have been good at the time. Her career was stalled during the musician strike of the early 40s, but she nevertheless recorded some big numbers, including Deep Purple, Heart and Soul, and My Reverie, which was adapted from Debussy. She was also on Your Hit Parade for a while, and she's one of the few people who can say they were pretty good friends with Frank Sinatra and Luciano Pavarotti. And just as a bit of trivia, her husband did some play-by-play for the Brooklyn Dodgers with Vin Scully, who we mentioned a couple minutes ago. We're going to close with her version of one of the favorite songs of both my wife and my mother. Music by George Gershwin, lyrics by Ira. I don't know, I may have closed with this before, I can't remember, but hey, you can never get too much Gershwin. So as a final tribute to Bea Wain, here's her version of Love Is Here to Stay.
But oh my dear, our love is here to stay. Together we're going a long, long way. In time the rock bucket may crumble, your brother may tumble, they're only made of clay, but our love is here to stay.